All right, we're going to hand it over to Seafood Doug Pierre.
I was brought in by Ashante because I am a stick fighter. Now, I've been doing martial arts around 53 years. But I came into the martial arts as a boxer. But I thought martial arts was this magical, mystical thing. And I said, later for boxing, I want to learn that magic stuff. These guys are breaking bricks and stones, and I want to learn that. Then I found out that it's all about hard work. Nothing magical or mystical about it. It has become my lifestyle, the martial arts. I travel a lot. I've been to like 23 countries. I got students in different countries. The one thing that I've noticed in all of the years that I've studied martial arts is that it doesn't work for everyone. Martial arts deals with a small segment of society. That's why you go to the dojo, there's not a lot of students in there. Most of the time you have to be kind of young, kind of fit, or really willing to suffer the pain to get in shape and stick with it. I was told that 1,000 people will come into your school, maybe 3 or 4 of them will reach any level of black belt. So with that thought in mind, I was always looking for the most violent martial arts for me. I found that karate wasn't violent enough for me. Because I was in tournaments playing tag. I wasn't getting hit and I wasn't really pounding on nobody. So I said, wait a minute, this ain't violent. If somebody comes at me violently, I want to match his violence with my violence. So I went into jiu-jitsu, a violent style of jiu-jitsu. It was like yelling, screaming, grabbing, snatching, throwing, boom, boom. Still not violent enough for me. Why? Because it was cooperative. It was cooperative training. What I'm saying is not to disparage people from studying martial arts. I think everybody should learn a martial arts, regardless of what it is, because it will develop you as a person. When you're in the street and someone wants to attack you, you gotta deal with that fight or flight and stress level. If I'm constantly training without it, I'm not prepared for it. I'm not gonna wake up one morning and say, da-da-da, put on my Superman outfit. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna do what I trained to do, period.
At that level.
Yes. So, still looking for something more violent for me. 1977, 76, I was introduced to Filipino martial arts, which was stick fighting. Let me correct that, stick and knife fighting. Now, I looked at it and I said, in our society, there's really 3 weapons. There's the blunt object, the sharp object, and the gun, the projectile. Those are our 3 weapons, and the mind. But I can't hit you with my mind, all right? So, when I got into full contact stick fighting, I got everything I ever wanted. These guys would whack you with that stick and not stop. So that satisfied the stress level. The other thing is stick fighting is very effective. That means everybody in this room, I could teach stick fighting to in an hour. And every last one of you will be effective. You will be able to hurt a person seriously. The concepts of what stick fighting is, because all of the other martial arts that I studied, it was hard for me to convey that thought to all of my students. Some of them were strong, some of them were women, some of them were overweight, and I couldn't teach all of my concepts to them where they could get it right away and use it. Stick stick fighting, after an hour, they became lethal. So I said, wait, what am I going to put all my focus in? Stick fighting. You know why? Because it's real. And when I say stick fighting, that means anything I pick up becomes that stick. Even my cell phone. And the concept of stick fighting is different than other martial arts. Martial arts teaches you self-defense. You all are familiar with that term.
That's just one aspect.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking to the novice, not to you masters. All right? Self-defense puts me a step behind because I gotta wait for you to do something before I feel comfortable to do something back to you. Filipino martial arts is about self-offense. The minute you come, we attack. And what we attack is your hand, because that's the threat. If you punch, reach, or try to grab, we're going to shatter the bones in your hand with whatever we have. That includes, some people say, well, you know, I don't always have a stick. Most of you read books, magazines, and newspapers. Roll it up and bang yourself in the head with it. And tell me if it doesn't work. Poke yourself in the eye with it and tell me it doesn't work. So, for all of the people who can't spend the time and the energy to train in traditional martial arts, Filipino stick fighting is the first response before the gun. I'm on a mission to teach the Filipino martial arts because, one, it's African-based. The first Filipinos were African pygmies. See, and
Next question.
if you pull a gun out, that's lethal.
Yes.
You cannot take that back. With a stick, I have the option to see if I'm going to go that far and hopefully stop you. And with a stick or umbrella or roll-up magazine, I can take you and your boys out. Easy. But the gun is something that we all should have. Definitely. And we should all train in the gun.
Good evening, everyone. I've been a licensed gun owner from my law enforcement days for now 3 decades. For 17 years, I've taught unarmed security officers, fire safety, fire life safety directors, new category in New York City. My goal was to empower people. First start with motivation and attitude. Attitude is one of the biggest reasons that some of the issues exist among any group in any city. Major metro being the worst, because that's where the attitudes flare. So I teach a calming factor, and one of my taglines is, before you do anything, before you act, say to yourself, for what? I'm doing this for what? For what reason? 17 years, thousands of people, I've seen some differences. And you talked about attitude and motivation. I want to touch on what Mr. Sharp said originally about people that do bad things with those firearms. There's pain somewhere. I would rather expand on that and find out what the pain is and how we can look at that. The device is not the issue. As he said, there are many devices. You could pick any device. We give people automobiles that go 120 miles an hour to an 18-year-old. You can't go 120 miles an hour on our highways or our city streets, but you can kill a family of 4. Devices are not the issue. Looking at maybe that prescribed medication he spoke about. Maybe if that's the home that firearms are in, we take a look at that. Take a look at what issue might arise. Who is bullied? Bullying causes suicides, and we don't look at it enough. There are many other issues, not devices. Mr. Latif mentioned about demystifying. I want to touch on what he said. My children learned about firearms from a very early age. HR 218 was put in place multiple times and amended, which allowed somebody such as myself, former law enforcement, to qualify each year, make sure I know the current rules, laws, and that I know what I'm doing, know that I can use it effectively if I needed to defend myself, my family, or anyone in this room.
That's right.
And I have to pass by a certain minimum standard before they give me that card. And that card allows me somewhat to carry anywhere in the country, with the exception of this building, and most courthouses, and schools, and the fire department, so on and so forth. The whole thing is about educating and empowering people, and that's what we're all doing here, we're educating. The more education, the better it is. In most of these gentlemen you heard, it's about education, educating you to protect yourself, educating you to know your rights. One of the other services that I've been involved with for 25 years is a company called Legal Shield, and we empower people to know their rights. As a senior manager and associate, no one should leave home without it. And if your firearm is with you, have more protection.
My name is Val Carrie Greenspan, and I am a retired New York City police sergeant. Since my retirement, I have gone into entrepreneurship. I am the CEO of TOTM Time of the Month, which is a menstrual wellness company. I'm not going to really speak about that because I was invited based off of my law enforcement background. So
Yeah, educate us. That's right.
So, I'm sorry, did I hear some no's back there? Because I actually, that would actually encourage me to speak, because I am an author, a speaker. I actually have a television show that educates people on menstrual wellness. And it's very important that not only our youth, but some of our women need to be aware of menstrual wellness. But I don't want to divert the topic. I do want to speak about firearm safety, and I do want to piggyback off of some of the comments that were made. I joined the force in 1994, and in 1995, I actually gave birth to a child. My daughter is now 22, and I never had an issue with my firearm in her presence, because like Mr. Graves said, when they're young, you should introduce them to your firearm. And I think I introduced my daughter Shelby, who actually is the muse behind TOTM Time of the Month. I introduced Shelby to my gun probably around the age of 6. I showed her the weapon, and I explained to her that it was not a toy, because in the event, while I did have a safe box in the house, children are very curious. You don't know what they're doing when they're doing it. Sometimes they could be looking over your shoulders. You may figure out what my combination is, and
That's
out
right.
of curiosity go into my safe box. So I did show her the mechanisms of the weapon, and I explained to her that it is not a toy, and it has repercussions when you use it, because once you use it on someone, it becomes fatal. So if in fact you're interested in becoming a firearm owner, here in New York City, they don't allow concealed permits for our citizens. However, you can have a shotgun permit for your home, and I advocate and I believe that we should all have the right to protect our homes. But if in fact you do have a weapon in your home, you should exercise firearm safety, especially when there are children involved. And when you have your children bringing their friends over, you don't want your gun to be the attraction of your house. And you don't want to be responsible for accidents that are detrimental. But it's difficult for women who wear form-fitting clothing to carry a concealed weapon. And so you have to get creative as to where you're going to place your weapon, whether you are going to chance it and wear it, put it in a bag. I'm now retired, so I don't have that issue. So I can carry my weapon in my bag if I choose to. I would, depending on the clothing, if I'm wearing jeans, I would use a side holster and wear my weapon that way. And then there's times when, you know, I'm going out, depending on the location, I'm not gonna carry my weapon. I don't need